September 12, 2025. This time, the target of the Ukrainian Air Force was a building housing Russian military FPV drone operators. This target had been identified as a result of detailed work by Ukrainian reconnaissance units. The Air Force used a MiG-29 fighter jet to target the enemy. When the pilot entered enemy range, he launched guided bombs. The guided bombs found their target seconds later and destroyed it with a huge explosion. The Air Force shattered another target. September 10, 2025. The attack Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Unit, affiliated with the Ukrainian Armed Forces 71st Separate Brigade, carried out attacks on the operational points of Russian soldiers. They used FPV kamikaze drones in these attacks. The drone operators first tracked enemy soldiers. Then, they attacked them with kamikaze drones at the enemy's weakest moment. Each strike by the kamikaze drones was effective. The explosions neutralized the enemy infantry. With this operation, Ukrainian forces successfully thwarted the enemy's attack attempt. After the attacks, the unit continued reconnaissance activities in the area. They also prevented any possible secondary attack attempts. September 12, 2025. The operators of the Ruvpak 112 in the Ukrainian Army now look like collectors of war trophies. With each new sortie, the list of targets they destroy grows a little longer. At first, only enemy personnel roaming the field were being hit. Then, buhankas and various vehicles became targets. Subsequently, armored units, the machines meant to halt Ukraine's advance, were reduced to flames by precision strikes. Even the bridges the enemy used for ammunition and supply were shattered into rubble within minutes. September 11, 2025. As part of the Ukrainian Defense Forces' operational activities in the South Slobodyan direction, high-precision FPV drone attacks were carried out by the Strix Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Unit, affiliated with the 4th Border Detachment. The unit carried out a multifaceted activity in this operation. The Strix unit used kamikaze drones in these operations. Numerous enemy targets were first identified in the area. Subsequently, the kamikaze drones were deployed. As a result of the attacks, 3 communication antennas, 1 enemy position, 2 separate bunkers or defensive positions, 1 ammunition depot, BK, 2 enemy vehicles, and 1 unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, launch position were completely destroyed. At the same time, Russian infantry forces were also neutralized in these operations. Thanks to such operations carried out by units of the Ukrainian army, a major blow was dealt to the effectiveness of the enemy Russian army in the region. The Ukrainian army's defense forces continue to monitor the enemy's every move. Operations are being carried out in the most effective way against these identified targets. September 12, 2025. The Worm Busters team, one of the Ukrainian Army's successful teams, identified a Russian military staging point. The unit quickly moved toward the enemy target using an FPV kamikaze drone. The unit's reconnaissance drones tracked the enemy soldiers' movements in real time. The information obtained was relayed to the attack team. FPV drone operators reached the Russian soldiers' deployment point based on the information received from the reconnaissance drones. The operators carried out an attack on the ruined buildings where enemy soldiers were hiding. After the first explosion, some Russian infantry panicked and fled to another nearby building. However, this did not escape the attention of the reconnaissance unit. A second FPV kamikaze drone carried out an effective attack on the second building where Russian soldiers were hiding, causing a violent explosion. The Russian soldiers hiding there were completely neutralized by the impact of the explosion. September 9, 2025. Ukraine's Signum drone unit launched an attack on Russian forces in the direction of Lyman. First, a Russian buhanka minibus was hit and destroyed. Then, a UAZ vehicle on the side of the road was similarly destroyed. Another vehicle hidden in the forest was also targeted and destroyed. Finally, a Russian soldier attempted to escape by jumping out of a military vehicle but was unable to do so. In this incident, Ukrainian drones neutralized several Russian vehicles and the soldiers inside them. A Ukrainian FPV drone launches a fierce attack on an enemy vehicle. After the kamikaze drone's attack, an explosion and fire start in the enemy vehicle. This vehicle is a Russian Army Ural 4320 military truck with a 2A-18 D-30 howitzer, i.e., a towed artillery system, attached to it. After the successful operation by the troops, both enemy vehicles were destroyed. In the Ukraine-Russia war, an FPV kamikaze drone destroyed a Russian flag like this. The Ukrainian Army's 33rd Brigade had detected renewed Russian activity in the village of Bohatyr. The area was under Ukrainian Army control. Enemy Russian forces had infiltrated the area on foot and had planted a Russian flag to show they controlled it. Ukrainian reconnaissance units had detected enemy elements through careful observation. FPV kamikaze drones immediately sprang into action. After the first explosions, enemy infantry tried to hide among the rubble of destroyed buildings, but a kamikaze drone was tracking an enemy soldier. With a sudden attack, the infantryman was neutralized. However, many enemy infantry were still observed in the village. After the first explosions, Russian soldiers immediately tried to hide in the basements of buildings and conceal themselves in green areas. They were running in fear, trying to reach shelters. Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drones had already begun destroying the enemy soldiers' shelters one by one. Drone operators were trying to pinpoint the enemy's location in the sky. As soon as the enemy soldiers' movements were detected, the kamikaze drones sprang into action. Immediately after Russian soldiers entered a building, a kamikaze drone would dive into the building with them, completely destroying both the building and the enemy infantry. Ukrainian units left the enemy soldiers nowhere to run. An unmanned aerial vehicle was also working simultaneously with FPV kamikaze drones. It was raining bombs on enemy shelters one after another. Some enemy infantrymen were trying to move carefully in open areas. They were looking for cover. Observation drones tracked the enemy's every move and shared their locations live with the attack teams. Enemy infantry trying to escape the area were reminded that there was no way out. As a result of the coordinated efforts of the units, not a single enemy soldier remained in the area. All that was left of the enemy were neutralized infantry and buildings billowing smoke. The Russian Army's secret plan had quickly ended in failure. September 10, 2025. Elements of the Ukrainian Defense Forces carried out a targeted operation to suppress enemy artillery activity on the front line. Based on intelligence provided by reconnaissance units, enemy artillery battery firing positions were identified and high-precision strikes were carried out with coordinated FPV drone attacks. The Ukrainian Army devised a detailed attack plan to destroy enemy artillery systems. The command center organized a powerful attack operation based on information from reconnaissance units. Ukrainian forces quickly launched powerful attacks to break the enemy's artillery power. The Ukrainian Army carried out this operation in a multi-pronged manner. Both Ukrainian artillery units and kamikaze drones were involved in the operation. Artillery units carried out precision strikes on the coordinates reported by reconnaissance units. The artillery strikes hit Russian targets squarely. Kamikaze drones also moved in simultaneously with the artillery units. They subjected the enemy to intense fire from both artillery strikes and kamikaze drones. Russian forces had hidden their artillery systems in forested areas. However, FPV kamikaze drones approached enemy targets with precise maneuvers and struck. The Ukrainian Army's intense attack caused successive explosions at enemy targets. Each explosion shattered another of the enemy's systems. On one hand, FPV kamikaze drones, and on the other, artillery fire virtually trapped the enemy target. Russian soldiers could not escape this trap. Ukrainian forces also succeeded in neutralizing enemy soldiers trying to escape using kamikaze drones. The Ukrainian Army's advanced drone systems were also the biggest factor in the success of this operation. This is because these systems have night vision and can detect the body heat of enemy soldiers. Factors such as these ensured that enemy targets were destroyed with a higher degree of accuracy. As a result of this coordinated operation by the Ukrainian army, many weapons and artillery systems belonging to the Russian army were successfully destroyed. A Ukrainian army FPV drone moves precisely under a bridge in the Bryansk region. Russian forces had booby-trapped this bridge with TM-62 anti-tank mines. This meant that the moment Ukrainian troops tried to use this bridge, they would be blown up. However, Ukrainian kamikaze drones thwarted the enemy's plan. The kamikaze drone quickly reached the location of the mines and triggered the explosion. A violent explosion occurred on the bridge. Ukrainian forces had rendered this bridge unusable with the first attack. The forces completely destroyed the bridge with a second attack. This was the village of Rudnyatsa, located within Russian borders. Enemy forces had prepared for the Ukrainian army's attack. They had even covered the bridge with nets. The aim was to protect it from drone attacks. However, the drone operators' skillful maneuvers managed to overcome this obstacle, and they foiled the enemy's trap. Ukrainian troops had successfully completed another cross-border operation. Russian forces launched a new attack on Ukrainian positions. Their goal was to capture Ukrainian positions. However, reconnaissance drones had detected this attempt in advance. Thanks to advanced reconnaissance drones, the location and direction of advance of Russian soldiers were clearly identified. Ukrainian forces then responded quickly and in a coordinated manner. Bomb-carrying drones began delivering ammunition to enemy soldiers. With the first explosion, Russian soldiers scattered into the wooded area. However, the advanced systems on the drones tracked the enemy step by step. After the operators marked the soldiers, they sent their bombs. The bombs hit their targets with precision. The enemy attack targets identified by reconnaissance units were soon replaced by large explosions. The Ukrainian army targeted the Arkada railway junction in the city of Frolovo, located in Russia's Volgograd region, with unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. This junction was an important railway connection point used by Russia to transport soldiers, ammunition, and other logistical supplies to the front. The attack caused severe damage to the railway line. This was Ukraine's 10th to 12th railway junction attack on Russian territory.
Уходи, блядь! Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой! Нахуй, блядь.
Ukrainian intelligence units carried out a drone attack on a vehicle parked in front of a government building in the Russian city of Belgorod. The kamikaze drone caused a violent explosion in the vehicle. The vehicle was severely damaged by the explosion. The Ukrainian army successfully destroyed countless enemy targets in August 2025 alone. Here are some of those numbers. The Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed 3,575 Russian military vehicles. These vehicles were used for supply and logistics transport. Attacks on logistics lines are of great importance in such a war. This is because military ammunition is transported on logistics lines. Where there is no ammunition, heavy losses begin. The Ukrainian forces were also aware of this, so they first targeted the enemy's logistics. A Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drone effectively destroyed a Russian military vehicle. This vehicle was used to supply food to Russian soldiers. Ukrainian forces used a drone equipped with powerful munitions to destroy the enemy vehicle in a single strike.